In a moment, you're going to see him on the dirt here at the Muresk Agricultural College. Stay with us, Australia. When we come back, all the action from the Commonwealth Bank Rally Australia live. Well, there you are, Muresk from the air. Beautiful, beautiful day here in Western Australia. Blue skies, the red roads, of course, the rally strips that we'll see all of the battle action on, and these green rolling hills. Colin Bond, it's quite a sight.
Yes, Darrell, I must admit, and I think that, we're going to see some fantastic cars and equipment.
Well, right now we're looking at the world champion's car, Carlos Sainz's car. Now, obviously he's hit something here. Is that a wheel alignment taking up?
They're checking the wheel alignment. He may have just had a bit of an off in the stage prior to this one, say, come in and said to the boys, look, can you just check the wheel alignment? Or the car may not be turning in properly, and he may want a little bit more toe in or toe out put onto the front of the car, or even the back of the car, because they can adjust these cars completely all around.
So really, at this early stage of the rally, we're into stage 6. They're still experimenting with pads and tyres and suspension settings?
They are, because it's been raining and they've been out doing a lot of testing prior. Now, the weather's been fabulous. The circuits today, I think, will even got dust coming from it. So they may have been, trying tyres that they've thought would be the case for these particular stages. Now they've found they're a bit, not the right ones, and they're trying some new type tyres or another compound.
Well, the world champion, the man they call them El Matador, of course, has got some comments at this early stage of the rally. Let's hear what he's got to say about how he's been going so far.
And how's the rally going so far? You're a little bit behind Juha.
We are 7 seconds now. It's difficult because we are now, I think now we know a little bit more which is the tire we should take, and now it's getting a little bit better, I hope.
So you've been experimenting until now?
A little bit.
Thank you very much, Colin.
Okay.
Tony Mason from the BBC working with us once again on the Commonwealth Bank Rally Australia, talking to the world champion there. Now, that really gels in with what you were saying. He has been experimenting with tyres. Seems like now he feels like he's found the right compound.
It sounds that way, doesn't it? They've got so many combination of tyres that they can choose from. And, they'll come into an area like that, and they may have 5 sets of tyres, all in tyre warmers, ready to go.
Well, there's the top 5 as they stand now. Kankinen in the Lancia Delta. His time there, as you can see, the fastest man so far. The Frenchman, Auriel, also in the Lancia. He's just minus that time of 0.005. Carlos Sainz, the man you just heard from in the Toyota Celica, the world champion, just fractionally slower than him. Then Erickson, then Schwartz.
That's their positions now, actually coming into this stage. So
we've got Carlson, Bourne, Salonen, Duncan, and the best of the Australians so far. All right, ready to go on the start line now. The count time down. Watch for the action. Unbelievable acceleration.
These cars can absolutely accelerate from 0, like 100 kilometres an hour, in about 3.5 seconds on this surface. They're going now down to this right-hander, which is quite fast. It'll be interesting to see how quick they can get around this corner. As they accelerate out of here, you can sort of see the car sliding sideways, putting its power down, and going over this crest, coming down towards a very, very fast dip up through a cattle grid. And it'll be interesting to just see how quick they can go down here.
Colin, this man has won the event twice here in Australia, so he's confident going into the event. But he's also won the 1,000 Lakes Rally this year, and that really is the biggest thing for him, being a Finn.
He's lost a little bit of time there, actually. We're a little bit wide of that corner. We'll see how that sort of pans out towards the end of the stage, I guess.
I guess for people watching rallies for the first time right around Australia, the cars, they go for a smaller car these days. The reasons for that, I guess, are obvious.
Well, it is. You've got to get through this cattle grid, and he's got one coming up very close now, and the car's quite sideways. He'll make it through the grid, then sort the corner out. I think he's gone quite wide.
Unbelievable clouds of dust as they come up now. You're looking at Juha Kankinen in the Lancia, really winding up the power now. Coming down the downhill section. It gets pretty bumpy here. He'll switch through this little left and a right section, and he'll come up to a blind spot very shortly. But look at the way he's using all of the road. He takes the racing line. Now he's coming to this area I'm talking about here. This grid here, very, very difficult. The right-hander, the car's gone sideways. He's got to straighten up. Bang, through he goes. The dust starts to fly. The fishtailing effect of the car, lots of power. Look at the speed there, Colin.
I just can't believe how fast they can accelerate out of these corners.
Back at the start, of course, the man that everybody in Australia has warmed to, Carlos Sainz, in the Toyota Celica, the world champion. He's waiting now to get onto the circuit. He now has to make up 7 seconds. Colin, where can he do it in this car?
Well, I guess it's got the power. They all reckon they got the same power. I think the Toyotas are slightly going to make a lot of time up here.
Well, look at this. He's just switching the car around and he just throws it away, washing off speed by actually changing direction of the front of the car prior to coming into the corner. Fantastic driving from Sainz, but getting very sideways early. He's trying.
They do get very sideways coming into the corners just to set the car up so they can pick up the apexes, get the power on early, and then get going.
Look at this, beautiful drifting and sliding of the car from Carlos Sainz now, El Matador. Full song here in Perth. See the way the attitude of the car changes there, and the car's on an opposite lock drift. So the wheels are pointing one way, but his hands are going the other.
That's correct. And they're doing somewhere in the vicinity of probably about 170 kilometres an hour at this particular point.
See him now wind it up, watch the front of the car, he'll wash the speed off. Here he goes, throws it sideways, beautiful line through the corner, over the grid. So there you have it. The Spaniard at the moment trying to make up 7 seconds as he blasts his way around this agricultural system. Here's Erickson now, the dust flying from the little Lancia as he really belts it around. Again, the attitude of the car, look at this, uses all the road and then some. Winding it up now, over the cattle grid. If you're a little bug or a stone, that's what it looks like. On with the brakes now. Look at the acceleration and the absolute speed as he blasts up the hill, Colin.
This is down to the finish now. That was the fastest they would have been doing, probably nearly 200 kilometres an hour through the finish line.
So Juha Kankkunen has finished his run.
Kenneth Erickson in the Mitsubishi, he's got further than he got last year, actually. They were looking for a good result here.
Yeah, had an accident, went out early, and that was a shame. Now, the dust is going to start to hang around the course, Colin. How important is that to be in the leading group?
I don't think it's going to matter that much here, because you'll find as they get going, there are 2-minute intervals, they don't actually run any dust.
Well, where it is now, it's hanging all over the commentary box, I'll tell you. It might start to drift around. Very hard to see out a window at the moment. But see that. See the way they wash the speed off. I think it's just fantastic, the car control. And if anybody goes away on holidays once a year and you drive on country roads, you know what the car feels like. Colin, these fellas are doing it at the absolute limit.
They are. They call that a Scandinavian flick, where they sort of get the car going in the wrong direction just before the corner, and then flick it back the other way to set the car up for them very nicely so they can pick up the apex and get the power on early.
This car has become a very popular rally car here in Australia. And, of course, a great duel will go on between Duncan and the Western Australia. Here's Sainz, up in the air, coming up to the finish line now over the Yups. Look at this. Gets the Toyota in all sorts of attitudes. Flat strap now. Whoa.
No, that's very exciting stuff. And these cars are built for these conditions, of course. And as I said, they can take these things flat out.
He's got the blinker going, so the hands have been flicking around. Now watches a bit of speed up the hill, a very fast section this, and the road here a little slippery.
It is actually. Now, I'll get very wide here. Oh, he's picked that up very nicely. He made a little bit of time, I'd say, Darrell, coming through there.
Very fast line, as you can see. Major air, too, from the Spanish champion, the world champion, as he hits the brakes. You see the car come down hard in the front. Big tail slide, now heads for the finish line. A very fast section here. This looks like a good time. There we go. Well, now the cat amongst the pigeons as the clocks will start to wind down. And the car's now making their way to the start line. We'll update you. It's a very complicated system with rallies because you have a stage time and overall time. Ingvar Carlsson now from Sweden in the Mazda 323. This is also a four-wheel drive car and another very popular car here in Australia in the rally scene.
Well, it is actually. Mazda have done a very good job with this particular car. It's down a little bit on horsepower maybe, but it's a very small car and it really likes the tight stages.
Well, let's have a look at the different driving styles now. We saw the El Matador go around in the Toyota in spectacular fashion. We've seen Kankkunen go around in spectacular fashion. But these little cars are beautifully balanced for rally cars, aren't they? They're the right size. They're a real power package.
They are, and he's driving the car fairly straight, actually, compared to the last two cars. And I think sometimes it's faster doing it this way. You just don't wash off so much speed, and the car is obviously turning in quite nicely.
Doesn't get so much air over the cattle grids, too. Now he gets it sideways with a nice slide. Good line, though.
It is, actually. Now the car's got to accelerate up the hill and into this nice right-hand sweeping corner before this grid again.
So you're looking at the little Mazda 323, beautiful little car. And here we go now, finish line. Up the yumps we are, heading for the finish line. And watch the attitudes of the cars, they come head on. Now look, imagine your car suspension taking that sort of pounding. These cars are built like, well, they're like tanks, but they're fast tanks. Oh, plenty of attitude now, and up in the air too. Fantastic stuff.
It is, he's got to make it through the left-hander, which they've done, through this fast right-hand to see if he can stay on the road this time. It's set up very nicely for the corner. No, that was fantastic.
Well, you see how, you know, when you're saying the car gets a very light attitude as it blasts over the cattle grid, you can see there that they've got to try and judge it to put it back really as straight as they can on the road.
Often you've got to set the car up before you even get to the cattle grid to make it have the right attitude so that when you're actually flying, you can actually then put the car back on the ground, turn where you want to go.
Kenneth Erickson with a 0.00337.9. So fairly competitive times together. As we say, we'll update you with the times. This is Markku Alin from Finland in the Subaru Legacy. Again, a four-wheel drive car. That really is the way to go in rallying now.
Well, it is. All the top teams have got the same configuration as far as that's concerned. Some a little bit more sophisticated than the others.
Well, now you can see the acceleration. Watch the different attitudes as the drivers sort the lines out. Now, of course, the navigators have all been around this circuit taking pace notes, Colin. So they're calling the shots the whole way around. The driver, his job just to steer the car, put it at the right place, brake in the right place, but his eyes are sitting beside him.
Well, that's right. There are a lot of crest map that you can't see what's over the crest. And what the navigator or the co-driver does, as they call them these days, he has a pad of pace notes, and he can actually tell them how the road's going that they can't see on, and basically the size of the corner or the degree of skill that you may need to get around the corner.
So you can see now, you can see working at the wheel, just balancing the car on that fine edge, and all very, very sideways there. We'll see through the dust in a moment, but really got the car in a big attitude.
It was actually, and that was just near one of the grids, so let's hope he didn't hit anything.
Well, we can see now. Watch, as I say, balancing these cars on a very, very fine edge. And one thing, Colin, that all the overseas drivers remarked last year, driving in Australia is so different for them. Here now, as you see at the top of the yumps again, getting all the power down this smooth section. We're giving you as much action from cars on the circuit as we can, using up all of the road. Oh, boy, they're really trying. And plenty of air from the little Mazda, too.
Sure, now through this right-hander up to the finish line. It looks a good time, throwing the rocks out as well.
Yeah. Up the hill, there's the time, 3.377. So they're very, very close at the moment. I was saying about the little stones on the road here, they've called them marbles, and they're having a lot of trouble because of the fact that the roads are a lot slipperier than they thought they were going to be.
Well, it is just like putting ball bearings on top of them, and the tyres that they've sort of, you know, not getting the grip that they normally used to.
This is the Frenchman, Didier Orleil, a very, very fast driver.
Yeah, there's a great cars too, the Lancia. It's interesting watching some of the attitudes of the drivers coming down. I noticed that Markku Alin was taking a very tight line and trying not to waste any time, where some of these drivers, in this particular, is using all the road and collecting the car coming into the corners.
Well, this Frenchman, beside him is Bernard Ocelli. He's just 33 years of age, the driver. Very, very accomplished. You couldn't possibly bring all of their records together, these fellows. They've won so many. But second in the 1,000 Lakes rally. So a very competitive combination this lot.
That's for sure. And here we are coming up the jumps again.
The jumps. This is Markku Alin in the Subaru now. See how the car thumps down really hard. Believe you me, going around with Colin the other day, the bumps in the little car we're in really starts to hurt, let me tell you. Look at that, soaring away at the wheel, gets it up in the air again, pumps it down, plenty of attitude on the car. Now he's in a fast section, heading up the hill to the finish line. Beautifully done. Watch him round this corner. This is spectacular. Uses all the road and then some.
That's for sure. Now he's got to make it through the grid with a bit of air, which I think he's done, and up to the finish line. Just watch how sideways the car gets, and don't forget, it is four-wheel drive, so it's driving all four wheels at one time. They're getting power down and down to the finish.
Here we go, up to the finish line now. Watch for the time, plenty of power on. 3.357, so nothing much in it. Kenny Sutcliffe, lots of great action from here. Back to you.
Head run, but it's good to see both the cars still going so strongly.
Colin, what is it about the drivers from Finland? Why are they so good? I mean, they've been good for so many years.
Well, I think it was just a breeding ground for all these Finns that used to drive around on snow and ice all the time, and we're used to driving the car sideways, and obviously they get in these situations and just like being at home.
Well, the 86 World Rally Championship, won Monte Carlo Rally. He was 8th there, 3rd in the Lakes, the 1,000 Lakes Rally, as we've talked about. He's done it all, really, hasn't he?
Well, they have. I guess, you know, it's a very class field, actually, and I think that, you know, it's great just being here watching all these cars and the way that they're just putting them down and doing what they're doing with them. I just can't believe sometimes the attitude the cars get and the way they get them back out and keep going.
Well, Colin, I mean, you're one of our most accomplished drivers. You've done it in the dirt, you've done it on the tyre, you've done it just about everywhere. As we see the yumps again lining up, watch this. This is great action as you see them up in the air, down in the air. The driver's got to compensate for all of that action of the suspension. And look at the absolute speed. That's how quick they're going here. Colin's talking 180 kilometres an hour. And on these roads, that's just sensational.
Well, it is. Up over the yumps there, they're, you know, as I said, anything up to 120 clicks. As they accelerate out of there, they could do anything up to 200. Most of the cars are geared about that. The thing is that they want to accelerate. They're not really worried about top speed as much, but the cars certainly accelerate, and the four-wheel drive allows them to do that. You know, when we were rallying, we really only had two-wheel drives. The rear wheels were driving, and the cars slid an awful lot. Now the cars still slide, but they just put their power down so much better.
Well, these days, of course, you're in touring cars on solid road surfaces. 3.439, a little bit slower that time around. But what's harder, touring car racing, rallying cars, open wheelers? You've done it all.
I don't know. I think that rallying is still more difficult than the rest of them because, you know, everything changes all the time. The surface of the road changes, the conditions can change, and I guess, you know, that's one great thing about rallying.
Armin Schwartz, this fellow is a bullet, isn't he? He's a bullet with legs.
I guess so. I mean, I was watching last night around the bitumen stages, and he was sensational.
Now, this German, I mean, he will give it everything. He sometimes doesn't finish. He sometimes puts it in valleys, ravines, and upside down. But when he's doing it, he does it really fast. Watch this man in action. Monte Carlo Rally, he was 4th. The Acropolis Rally, 8th. The 1,000 Lakes Rally, he was 10th. Monte Carlo Rally back in 1990, 5th. So yet to win a big one, still earning his spurs, but he's so incredibly fast.
Well, he is, I think, and it's just a, you know, typical German attitude, I guess, you know, put your head down and do it as best you can, but he's certainly been doing a great job.
Back on the yumps now, looking at the car coming up. This is terrific stuff because you really do see how a car works so hard. Salonen here trying to read the road the best way he can. I mean, they're trying to make the bumps as easy as they can because they don't certainly want to do any damage to tyres, wheels, suspension, gearboxes. I mean, the pressure's put on. I meant to say some time ago that people go on holidays and perhaps have a drive on a country road from time to time, but they just can't understand the bashing that these cars must take to be competitive.
Now, that's right, because the suspension in them themselves, you know, they're much stiffer sprung. They've got a lot more suspension travel, say, than a standard motor car, and they're basically designed to take this punishment, and I just think it's fantastic.
So look at that now, the absolute speed. Look at the line through the corner. See how the car gets sideways and just hits the apex at the right way. Coming up the hill now, winding out all of the power that Salonen can give the car. Watch for the time, 3.466. We'll have an update with all the times for you at the end of the section. But gee whiz, it's an interesting competition so far because the attitudes of the cars have been different. The racing lines have been a lot different too. Jorge Raquel now, another German, and in the same mode, a big heavy right foot.
Well, that'd be right. You know, the action is just coming so fast, Darrell, it's hard to sort of keep looking at all the stages all the time. But, you know, the cars, these particular cars, we're talking now the top cars, are just so well put together, and the drivers and the teams just do such a fantastic job with them. Just to not only get the cars on the circuit and running, but just keep them running for the whole day, you know, 4 days for the rally.
Jorge Raquel, his last major win was in 1988 in the Rally of Argentina. He won that one, 5th at the Acropolis in 89, 3rd in Argentina, 7th in Portugal, 8th in New Zealand, 3rd in the Safari Rally, and he was 5th in the Rally of Argentina this time around. So yet to probably fulfill his ambition to be a consistent winner, but certainly always up there and trying very hard.
Well, sure, you know, and I guess this is always hard to actually beat. The people are at the top, you know, I mean, Sainz and them, they don't give in very easily, and obviously everyone's trying, and it is very, very difficult to win around the World Championship.
Well, you are the most competitive cars and drivers. Look at this. Oh, he will give it some round here. There's no doubt about that. Armin Schwartz. What's the attitude of his car now? The Celica. Same sort of car as Carlos Sainz is driving here. Enormous power. Beautiful car to drive, I'm told.
That's right, and you can just see the attitude. Watch the car go around this corner, how sideways it gets. You can see it from the helicopter shot. It just, and so much power. That's just fantastic. Comes down to the finish now.
Waiting for times to come up. Car 10 on the grid. Well, this is Ross Duncan. The Australian, he's one of the great characters of motorsport anywhere in the world. Did you see how excited he was after last night's drive? He just wanted to go again.
That's right. Well, Roscoe, you know, has always been a great ambassador of Australia, and he really wants to do very, very well in this event. He lives in Perth, and, you know, he wants to win, not so much over here, but last year he was doing very well and was well up in the place and had a bad accident. This year, all he wants to do is make sure he finishes in his top 10, and at present he's doing very well, and he's doing that, actually.
Another very accomplished driver in as much that he will try anything.
Well, he is. I mean, Roscoe can drive anything, and I think that you know, the Mitsubishi he's been running here, he's probably being a little bit conservative just at this stage, looking him go through the bumps. He doesn't want to make any mistakes so early in the event. He knows that probably it's going to be very hard. You can't compete against Sainz, but he's doing the best job he can now and doing very well.
Well, in 89, he won the Rally of Malaysia. He won the Rally of Indonesia in 89 as well. Fourth in New Zealand in 1990. First in Malaysia in 1990. First in Indonesia the same year. This year, of course, he won the Malaysian again. In 91, the Malaysian Rally champion. I mean, he really has dominated rallying in this part of the world. And Possum bought a similar car from New Zealand. Haven't they had a duel over the last couple of years? There we go now, car 9 heading up.
Well, they have, actually. You know, Possum, again, New Zealander, doing a great job in the little Subaru. They've always had a battle last year, this year, and it's on again.
Jorge Raquel, you're looking at our car 9 as he throws up some dust and throws the car sideways, getting ready for his finish. Look at this, around the corner, sprays everybody with plenty of red West Australian dirt over the grid. That's what it looks like if you're one of those little iron bars sitting there. As he comes in under brakes hard. Now the long straight up the hill to the finish line, and look at the speed. You can just see it's blowing all that dust out. A good time too, with 3:4.87. Kenny Sutcliffe, back to you. Possum Bourne, the man we talked about, the Kiwi, another very experienced driver. Roger Free, his co-driver. Now he was second in the 88 Rally Australia, 10th in the Rally Australia 89, 7th in the Safari Rally, which is a great result. Rally of New Zealand, he was 5th in 1990. Rally of Australia, he was 4th, and that was the great duel that he had with our man Duncan, because before Ross had that big Alf.
Well, that was right, and it was on for young and old, and I think it's going to be the same again. There's only seconds in it now, up to the, sixth stage between Ross and Possum. The cars are probably very equal, actually, and I know the Possum spent a lot of time over here doing their pace noting, trying to perfect them, and it's starting to pay off for him.
Well, he's going a little harder as far on the road than Ross Duncan did around that corner. I mean, he really had the car sideways there.
That's right, but sometimes, you know, if you be a little bit straighter, it is quicker. Here comes Roscoe up the jumps, and everyone's cheering for him too. Good on you, Ross.
Look at the crowd here. They love this fellow in Western Australia. They love him in Australia because, I mean, he really does perform on and off the track, I'll tell you. And he is one of the funniest storytellers of all time. Now, he knows that Possum Bourne is out there. He needs to get a good time here, Duncan. You can see him soaring away at the wheel, trying to get as much traction as he can. Now he gets the thing straight again. You can see he uses all the road. There's the apex. Clips that nicely this time around. Up over the grid.
Up over the jump and see if he gets it airborne. Yes, a lovely landing too. Look, Ross is doing a great job. Now watch it get sideways through here as he powers on up to the finish line.
So, wringing its neck, the Mitsubishi. That's what he wants to do, Ross Duncan. And a long way to go yet, but a spectacular speed stage here. Good time, 3:39.4.
That's an excellent time, actually, yeah.
Okay, so we'll have to watch Possum Bourne's time. As I said, we'll update you with all of the times. Rod Millen, an interesting man, Rod Millen, out of New Zealand now, resides in the US of A in the Mazda 323, but also does a lot of custom work on Japanese cars, in particular the Mazda MX-5, the one that you've been using here, is a zero car. It's a real hot little package he puts together in America.
Well, that's great. I mean, he's been around for a long time. We used to rally against him in New Zealand, and then he did go across to the States and that to try and set up rallying and do a lot over there. But he's back doing this Pacific area now, and they've sort of concentrate really running against Ross a lot of the times in the South Pacific Series. And I think there's not much in it between him and Ross, actually, at this stage of the game with one more round to go.
Two-time American champion, won the championship in the United States in 88 and 89, won the Pacific Asian Championship in 89, and then in the Rally of New Zealand he was second in 89, Rally of Australia he was fifth, in the Rally of New Zealand sixth, so a consistent performer, considering that he doesn't really spend that much time down under anymore.
Well, that's right. I'm just watching the car. He's very, very precise, just putting the car where he wants to place it and try and not waste much time. And I think that's another attitude that you've got to think about in rallying, that you can overdrive sometimes. It looks really good, the car's sliding, it's going off the road, but you're sort of wasting time because you're using a lot more road than what you should be. He seems to be a lot more exacting and trying to just use as least amount of road as possible, keep the car fairly straight and drive it that way. And it'll be interesting at the end to see what time he does.
Well, Colin, we should explain too that these sections that they're racing in over this time, they then go to what we call a transport section where they go to the next special stage. So they really get a chance to switch off after this, concentrate on what they're going to do, get to the next special stage, turn on again. But it's the concentration required is just enormous.
Well, it is, and it's one of those things that most of the teams have been here for at least 2 weeks, just going around the roads, perfecting their pace notes. And that's, you know, now it's all come to the end. And what they've got to do is concentrate 100% while they're doing these stages to make sure they don't waste any time anywhere.
Ray Wilson, another Kiwi. There's plenty over here. Peter Garnett sitting beside him. Another Mazda 323. Now, he's a B-seated driver. They are A and B-seated drivers in this event. And, by geez, the results aren't all that bad, you know. In 88, the Rally of Australia, he was fourth. In 88, the Rally of New Zealand, he was second. Rally of New Zealand in 89, he was seventh. His major results so far. But the Kiwis love to come over here and take on the Aussies. There's a lot of fierce competition, Trans-Tasman style.
Well, there is, I guess, and it's not so far to come either. You know, it's very hard, obviously, for the people coming from Europe. It is a long way. But the locals, and I know myself, I used to love just going to places like New Zealand and compete, or the Philippines and so on. And, you know, that's what Ross is basically doing now, and these guys are doing the same. You can see these cars now really haven't got the same power as the cars we've just been watching, and they're using, I suppose, a straight line again attitude, not use too much road and just try and go around here as fast as they can.
Yeah, you can see it's a lot. I mean, it's no more relaxed than the car, of course, because they've got to drive just as hard as the works cars.
Well, that's exactly right.
Coming up to the yumps now. And you can see, again, the car's not probably getting the same amount of air. Waiting now, coming around, you can see trying to straighten up foot. Now, that was really nice the way he placed the car then.
Exactly, and he's got to come over that jump and then place the car to make the right-hander. They've gone a little bit wide, but that's not a problem. They knew that before because the notes would say that you can go wide on it. He was in tight that particular time, doing a great job over the grid, a bit airborne, and now up to the finish.
Colin, how long does it take you to bring yourself up to speed? A fellow like Millen, who is now manufacturing special one-off cars, that sort of thing in America, to get back into the sport and be competitive, how much time does he need to bring himself back up to rally speed?
Oh, not much at all, actually, Darrell, because he is still rallying all the time, and they're doing the South Pacific Series, and obviously they're not doing as many events as some of the top teams, but they still do enough, and they do enough practicing and do enough testing, I guess, you know, to keep yourself really in tune.
Well, they're here from everywhere. I mean, this is the Kenyan driver. I think it's Nadru, is that right? Patrick?
Could be. He's a fantastic guy. I was talking to him the other day, and a very, very nice guy.
In another Subaru Legacy four-wheel drive. This is the turbo version, so lots of horsepower under there. He's a B-seated driver again. Safari Rally, he was first in the Group N, the Kenyan national champion. So he comes here with a good reputation. And of course, the Group N cars are the production cars. For those of you who don't understand rallying fully, there are all sorts of classes run here, and all of the classes are very, very important to all of the drivers.
Well, that's right. I guess, like, Group N is nowhere near as expensive to run as what a Group A car is. It's a lot, you know, the suspension and that they can modify. There's a very limited amount you can do. We call them series production like normal road cars. Some slight modifications, but the Group A cars, you know, in comparison are modified quite heavily.
Now, are they harder to drive because you have not as much horsepower on tap? Are they easier or harder to drive? I mean, if you've got to drive the thing to the absolute limit, but you just don't have that power to get out of trouble sometimes?
Well, I guess they're both very difficult to drive at the limit. The thing is, of course, with the Group N car, you're not going as fast, so if you overstep the limit, the accident's not so big.
Yeah, exactly. But, gee, you know, it is a very safe sport when you consider the amount of forest roads these fellows will negotiate. This sort of terrain, very few accidents in rallying at all. I mean, they are so precise on the road. I mean, they are absolutely wonderful drivers. I've often said that I think all round, just in pure skill, these fellows are probably the best.
Well, it's always hard. I mean, Ayrton Senna wouldn't agree, I'm sure. But I think it does take a different sort of skill to be a rally driver. And the people that have got it, you know, certainly have got a fantastic ability to set a car up, position on a road, use the power to, you know, position the car where they want to do it. And it is a different sort of situation, particularly when you've got somebody else telling you all the time what you should be doing. In other words, a co-driver saying, you know, over the crest there's going to be a flat-out right-hand corner, and you only hope, I guess, that he's right.
Colin, though, Ayrton Senna, with all respect, is not doing 180 kilometres an hour or faster at places with, you know, large gum trees about 3 feet away in special places.
No, well, I guess that's right, and this can vary. Most of the drivers that came here were a little bit disappointed about.
Well, there you are, Kenny. Plenty of action coming to you from this beautiful part of Western Australia. The dust is flying here, son. Into this rally with some wonderful, wonderful credentials. Gee whiz, a lot of people think a lot of this fella.
Well, they do. It's a Group N car again. He won this Group N series last, or I think it was the first Australian home last year.
Yes, he was.
A Group N car. He does a great job in this car. Again, they haven't got the power, as we said, of the outright cars. But Ed has been competing in this particular car, even overseas, and has done a great job even for Australia.
Yeah, dabbling overseas in the Mitsubishi Galant VR4. A school teacher here, just 34 years of age. Harry Manson sitting beside him also is quite an interesting character.
Well, they are both interesting, and as I said, I think Ed is a lovely person to talk to. Takes his motorsport very, very serious, of course, and is looking forward to this event.
So here's the Kenyan now, winding the Group N car up. You can see the absolute power is not there. As Colin's explained, they're very, very difficult to drive because of the fact that the lack of power is not there. They really have to be so precise.
Well, that's right. If you do get into trouble and you just want some power to pull you out, you haven't got it. So you just make sure, I guess, that you don't get yourself in too much trouble all the time. He's driving the car very straight, actually, Darrell, not using too much of the road. I guess it's his first time in Australia. I don't know how well he knows the roads, and that he was pace noting, but he's being a little bit cautious.
Well, I mean, would our conditions here be similar to what you'd find in Kenya?
Well, the sun's shining, I guess. I don't know, but I would
Same
imagine
sort of roads.
Same sort of roads. But look, Kenya is, I don't know, it's one of the hardest events they compete in, of course. And this, I guess Australians, like any other country, we've got good roads, bad roads, and they compete on a lot of them.
Time 4:29.7. Adinsky, now you're looking at it, you'll see the attitudes change here because he'll have the boot right down hard. He knows the roads. This is George Fury. Now, what a great character he's been in motorsport. Of course, dominant in the touring car rounds with the Nissan company. Had a split with them, has come back to rallying after dominating the scene before that little foray. So he's done it all as well.
Well, George is a fabulous driver, and, you know, he's been out of rallying a little bit. He came back, a year or so ago, competed in 3 events, won those, and didn't do any more. So he's back rallying. I think it's what he really likes doing best. He's been doing mostly motor racing over the past, 5 to 6 years. And, George is always very competitive, whether it's in rallying or racing.
Yes, he sure is. Okay, let's have a look now as Adinsky now sets himself up to get up to the hill to the finish line. And, of course, as we said, just one of the stages. This is 6 in round 10 of the World Rally Championships. And they'll hit the forest in the day, the night. They'll have wet conditions, dry conditions, bumpy roads, smooth roads. Marvellous, marvellous athletes, these fellows, to keep the level of concentration required to steer a car as quickly as this on these narrow, bumpy, slippery roads. Get some nice air, too, in the Group N car. See, we're not seeing the big jumps now. We're not seeing the cars go quite as sideways. But the lines are still there, aren't they?
They are, but I guess they're being very, very precise about it and just trying to not lose any time. And this is what I was saying before. In rallying, you either try and make up time, of course, by having the power and do it right, or not losing time by making mistakes, going too wide on corners and driving the narrowest and shortest road you can.
Well, it's a fantastic, spectacular place here. It really is. I mean, the hills are just covered in green grass and beautiful coloured wildflowers. And to see these cars just blasting down here, Neil Bates you're looking at now in the Toyota Celica. It's the GT4. Now, Neil Bates is an interesting character because he virtually has just had such a rise to prominence.
He has, and this is the first time that he's actually got a Group A car. He's been running his own Toyota here, but nowhere near the same power. This is a similar car to what Sainz has been running, and I guess that Neil is sort of learning. It's a left-hand drive. It's the first time he's driven a left-hand drive car, and that's difficult in rallying. I've sort of raced left-hand drive. It didn't seem too bad, but when you rallied them...
Well, 1991 Queensland Rally Championship, he second place there. In 91, the New South Wales Rally, he was second there. Festival State Rally, 91, he was third. The 91 Forest Rally, he was third, and it goes on. This fellow's only been around for a number of years. Here's Fury now onto the bumps. Let's see how he handles that. Straight away, you can see the car going bang, bang, bang. The last one now, again, a real hard hit, and it gets another little one after that. Now the car can sort of go through the gearbox, build the revs up again. And you can see now just clearing the bumps. Really good crowd in attendance out here because this we're a long way off the main highway here, of course. Before we get into the forest, we have people scattered right throughout the forest roads here over in Western Australia. Fantastic to see the best people in the business doing their thing here in Australia, in the Commonwealth Bank Rally Australia. And you're looking at George Fury we're looking at now. And Fury, just an amazing guy. I mean, it doesn't matter what he gets into, he can handle it so well. Heads up to the finish line now. Look at the dust just spraying out of the car. He's trying for everything. 3:58.7. So there's the time for George Fury. It's back to Kenny Suckler. Top 10 as they stand on the road now after this special stage. It's still Kankinen out in front. Sainz, a sensational drive today. Erickson, a big improver. He sits in third. Oriel is there. Schwartz is there. Allen is in sixth spot. Then we've got Carlson, Duncan from Australia, Salonen and Miller. They're the top 10, but probably the best story revolves around the three. Kankinen, just, well, consistent as he always is. Sainz was just so fast. Tony Mason caught up with the Spaniard straight after the lead.
So, did you make the right tyre choice, Carlos?
Yes, everything was okay.
You actually beat Kankinen by 4 seconds there.
Yeah, not so.
What about those jumps? How do you approach those?
Flat out.
You go flat out? Oh, Juha said he doesn't go flat out.
No, I can go flat. I know from last year I can go flat.
El Matador can go faster. Tony Mason, hard to believe.
He will go faster. He's an amazing guy. But another amazing run, he's from Ross Duncan. He's up at their 8th. He's mixing it with Salonen, Ricaldi, people of that sort. I think that is one of the most remarkable drives on this rally today. I know it's an early stage, but it's pretty good position.
He was 6th fastest here today. I mean, that is a great performance, isn't it?
Yeah, and his car really isn't as fast as the ones that Ericsson and Salonen are driving, you see.
Now, in your eyes, I mean, Sainz, what makes him such a special driver when he needs to do it?
I think he's just, he's got an uncanny ability, and everybody in rallying regards him as the greatest probably that there's ever been. He seems to be able to moderate his pace accordingly. He knows exactly what speed he should be going, when it's safe to go a bit faster, and he just is out of this world.
Ingvar Carlson was also very fast in a Mazda. Let's have a look at how he saw this special stage at Moresque from a driver's point of view. How about that? Ingvar Carlsson's Mazda certainly turned a quiet country road into something else. Well, Colin Bond, you've probably done more laps of this particular part of the rally than anybody else driving the Zero car, the safety car. But boy, I bet you would have liked to have had that sort of horsepower.
Would have made it much more interesting, I'm sure, Darrell. It's great to see someone in action like that, and I think, you know, that driver's perspective just can show you what the cars can take, I guess, and particularly over the jumps and how they land.
We've talked about the top 10, but there's 2 drivers from Australia that are just out on the fringe of that with some sensational performances today.
Well, there is actually Fury and Adinsky, actually. Fury's 12th outright, which is fantastic, and Adinsky's 13th, and there's not much between the two of them. And they're leading Group N, which is quite good. You know, I mean, George to come back into the rallying for starters, to be 12th now and leading Group N, I think he'd be really wrapped in that.
Enjoy yourself today?
It's been interesting. I prefer to be out there doing it, I guess, and sitting there talking about it. But it's been a great stage, quite open stage course, and the cars are going fast. Once they get back into the trees, it might make a few things a bit more different, though.
Colin Bond, our national champ, of course, of a few years ago, but oh boy, can he still pedal a motor car. We'd like to thank the people from Australian Airways for bringing the Nine Sports team over here to Perth from all round Australia to bring you the action. We'll be back tomorrow morning with Max Walker on the Sunday edition from highlights from the second time round here at Muresk. If it's anything like today, it'll be fantastic. Join us then.